Hello everyone, welcome. In this video, let's talk about how to approach the two-space enclosure from the start point. So this enclosure will be very rare. You're probably not going to see this a lot in your own games, but we're doing this video just to cover all the ground, really. And it should be interesting to compare this move with the large knight's move, right? Once again, the goal of these videos is to show you some interesting variations, right? Showing you how to appreciate the difference between all these different enclosures, all these different moves, right? They might be only one space apart, but some of the variations will have new moves and different conclusions. You're unlikely to see a lot of two-space enclosures in games because this is no longer recommended by AI. But of course, as a beginner or an amateur player, you're free to experiment with all kinds of moves, right? You're not a professional player. You're not trying to get every little advantage you can get at the beginning of the game. If you play this move and if it works for you, you know, at the beginner or at the Q level, then definitely go for it. There's no need to hesitate if something works for you against your opponents. But most likely, when you're a down player, you get to the down level, moves like this might put you at a disadvantage. And then you'll slowly phase out, right, some of your own favorite moves because your opponents get stronger. So that's usually how this works. And we're going to cover just a few of these approaches, A, B, and C, right? So if you already play the two-space extension, your opponent, right, white in this situation is unlikely to play from the left side because number one is simply too far from the corner, right? It's not really threatening the corner. It's really just challenging this enclosing stone. And this enclosing stone is not really enclosing the corner, right? Just a little too far. This is more about fighting on the side and gaining influence on the left side here or even the lower left, right? So it's a little too far from the corner. This 3-3 invasion exists. I think that is why this two-space enclosure is not really recommended, right, for beginners and Q players because you're not guarding the corner. But it's still worth going through a couple of variations. So first of all, black should still block from this side, right, guiding your opponents to this enclosing stone instead of playing something like this. As we mentioned before, any enclosing stone on the left side here will be in an awkward position. It's kind of over-concentrated for black. So white cross, right, this is maximizing the corner territory and eye space. And the next move is pretty important for black because intuitively you might be thinking something like this. But this is not really good for black. White already has the corner. White gets sente, right? And all this enclosing stone does is basically sealing off the left side with number 8 on the second line, which is not that big, right? We play something like this, right? It's very similar to this. And the efficiency of this enclosing stone is not that great. If you compare it with will be the old Joseki, right, from the 3-3 invasion. So number 4 is a little problematic, right? You might be thinking the double hane at number 6, and it actually just doesn't work, right? This seems like the Joseki. It seems like this stone is putting pressure on the white group, but actually it's at a very bad position, right? Because white can push and cut this stone off. And what's happening now is that white is threatening to break out this way and kill the corner, right? So black will have to give up the corner in exchange for some influence on the outside. And this is not great for black. So that is why if white cuts here, black should probably save the corner, but white will kill these two stones along with the enclosing stone, right? So the enclosing stone is just, unfortunately, at the wrong spot in this Joseki. So that is why the double hane at number 6 also doesn't exist. So the correct move in this situation is this diagonal move, right? This is a good move because now if white tries to continue on the left side, now this enclosing stone is this double tiger's mouth, right? Protects against 2 cutting points. And this is a very good shape for black. So white doesn't want to give black this shape. So instead, white will probably play this hane and connection first, right? Now there'll be a cutting point, and number 8 needs to take care of that. And now, white still owes a move on the corner, right? You can play at number 9, black can take sente, or you play number 9 right here. Something like this. Black again can take sente. If black comes in and kills number 9, which is relatively small, number 13 can break out, right? So this is not that great for black, unless you're trying to kill the whole group, right? In this way, it makes sense. Otherwise, white can still make a living shape. After this exchange, just put a stone on the 2-1 point right here. So that locally, white is alive. But when the board is empty, when white is not really afraid of being killed right away, you should play number 13, right, to disrupt black's wall. So it's not worth it for black to play a number 10. So most likely, you just allow white to live on the corner, and black can take sente. So this is a proper Joseki from the 3-3 invasion. You might be thinking something like this extension is just a little too soft because white can still play on the second line here very comfortably, right? So that is why when your opponent plays the 3-3 invasion, the optimal move after number 2 is right here, this diagonal move at number 4. I think that's probably the main takeaway, right? If you play this enclosure, most likely your opponent is going to play the 3-3 point, right? The 3-3 invasion. But what about some of these other moves? These are going to be very similar to the large knight's enclosure in the previous video, right? So if you play the attachment underneath, so these 2 hanes, right, hane moves both exist, and they're very similar in terms of the point advantage, right? If you play from the inside, then of course black is trying to save the corner, and once again, white will play the 3-space extension. If black invades, then it'll be something like this, right? Or black can cut white off. And it'll be something like this. Once again, very, very similar to what we saw in the previous video. It's just the position of the stone is a little different. But the fight will be very similar, and the idea is very, very similar. What about this hane, right? So this might make a difference, right? Because white is coming into the corner this way, and maybe something like this will be fine. Black gets a wall on the outside, black gets sente, and white gets some ice space. Not 100% alive yet because of this potential monkey jump in the future, but black will have to seal off white in order to make this kill, right? So, but this is playable for both sides. If black really wants to seal off white, maybe not a good idea at this moment because you have 2 cutting points. It's a little short on liberties here. And black will have to scramble on the left side here. It'll be something like this. So once again, this is a familiar shape, right? This is going to be a seki shape for white. White is alive, and black. But of course, these 2 stones can be sacrificed very easily. So black shouldn't worry that much in this situation. But still, white will be able to push out and cut. So the wall is not as strong as it can be. So maybe number 8 here is better for the wall. So white cannot break out that easily. Black can also play this hane. It's an interesting move. This is really trying to press white all the way down to the second line here. But most likely black will owe a move on the outside. Of course, if this ladder works in white's favor, meaning black cannot capture, then white can also play at number 7 and number 9. But now, black can play this net, right? So if you look at this, then black's wall is actually not bad. By sacrificing these 2 stones, black gets a really strong wall facing the upper side. That's actually pretty good. And black gets sente as well. So these are some possible variations from number 2, right? This hane. Of course, You can calculate on your own what happens here or here. It's going to be quite similar to the large knight's move. Last but not least, this approach. Again, this will be very similar. The optimal move for black in this situation is the kick, right? Because number 3 has to respond, and now black can go ahead and play the pincer. And these 2 white stones will have to escape toward the center, something like this, and there will be a fight. What about this extension, this descent? Didn't really mention this for the large knight's move. It's a little slow. It's a little bit slow. It's totally fine for amateur players, beginners, cube players, totally fine, right? It's a very solid move to protect the corner territory, but it's not putting enough pressure on number 1, right? So if you're a thumb player, this is not recommended. But if you're a cube player, beginner, definitely go for it, right? Because you already secured the corner, which is a pretty good start, right? So if you play it this way, totally fine, but a little bit slow. And of course, these moves will be very similar, right? It's all about guarding the corner, but of course, you play at number 2, and then maybe sometime down the line, as we mentioned before, without the enclosing stone, right? We introduce number 2 and some of the potential problems, right? So like something like this in the future, or white can just play an extension first and deal with the aji, right? All kinds of potential moves here on the corner later. So that's the general idea. And lastly, right, the pincers, the idea is similar. White's optimal move is to come into the corner, right? If it's something like this is totally fine. White is already alive. White will not be killed, right? If black cuts off number 1, then this 2-space enclosing stone is not at the right spot, right? It's not really helping to enclose the white group. I mean, it does, but white will get sente in this situation. And it's just not the best move. It's better off being the 1-space jump or the small knight's move, right? And that's part of the advantages of playing the small knight's enclosure and the 1-space enclosure. So that's the general idea. I think the main takeaway here is that these are all very similar to the large knight's enclosure, except for this pattern, I would say. And for this video to be useful, you really have to use some of these patterns, these variations in games, and see for yourself. Otherwise, this is just as a kind of a filler, right? Just to make sure we're covering all these enclosures, all these potential variations, not all, but main variations. And hopefully this helps. As always, if you have any questions or confusion, please let me know in the comment section below. Thank you for watching.